The General Assembly will come to order. The Sergeant at Arms of the House is recognized.
Mr. President, I have the honor to announce the presence of His Excellency, the Governor of the State of North Carolina, the Honorable Roy Cooper.
The Sergeant at Arms of the House and the Senate will admit the Chief Executive, who is invited to the well of the House.
Mr. President, I have the distinct honor and privilege to present His Excellency, the Governor of the State of North Carolina, the Honorable Roy A. Cooper.
Thank you, guys.
Members of the General Assembly, distinguished guests, His Excellency, the Governor of the State of North Carolina, the Honorable Roy Cooper.
Mr. President Pro Tem, Mr. Speaker, members of the General Assembly, Council of State, Mr. Chief Justice and members of the Supreme Court, members of the Court of Appeals, Cabinet Secretaries, and to my family, my amazing wife, Kristen, and our 3 wonderful daughters who are with us in spirit and watching via PBS North Carolina TV. Good evening. I am honored to be with you tonight. We gather after a year we could not have imagined. And now we look to a future that can be even better than we imagined. Our response to an unprecedented, once-in-a-generation challenge is showing us clearly that North Carolinians are resilient and ready. The state of our state is strong. And that's because the character of our communities is even stronger. We've shown we are compassionate. Amid a year of suffering and loss, North Carolinians have never stopped showing up for each other. Our healthcare workers have sacrificed their own safety to save lives. Neighbors have delivered meals. Families have found new ways to stay connected. Songs from grandchildren have poured through nursing home windows. Educators have engaged and nurtured their students, even through the computer screen. There are endless examples of kindness and strength that we have shown each other. We've lost a lot this year. Painfully, the 12,560 North Carolinians who died with COVID-19, from parents and children to favorite teachers, community volunteers, and many more. Their lives have forever enriched ours, and we will carry them with us always. And not only have we lost loved ones, we've also lost time to sickness, lost learning, lost jobs, lost peace of mind. One thing this pandemic laid bare is the inequities that were already here. The critical need to strengthen our public schools and require a sound basic education for all of our children as our Constitution mandates. The gaps in high-speed internet access, the unlivable wages that many hard-working North Carolinians, just to make ends meet, to take on multiple jobs that don't provide health insurance. But if we can harness all that we have learned from our lost, we can boost opportunities for all North Carolinians. The opportunity to get a training for a better paying job, the opportunity to get health insurance, the opportunity to get connected to telemedicine, homework, and loved ones who live far away, the opportunity to prosper. This past year has impacted every single person in our state and has required the collective effort of North Carolinians to stay safe and save lives. From the beginning, I pledged that we would listen to health experts and follow the science to protect our state. And we have done just that. The decisive actions we have taken saved lives and prevented our hospitals from being overwhelmed. And I would like to recognize and thank healthcare workers across our state. Your commitment and courage have made all the difference. Thank you. Our state's response to the pandemic has been strong, and every phase of it has required North Carolinians from Cherokee to Chowan to step up and do their part, including the people in this room tonight. Farmers, restaurant cooks, grocery store workers kept us fed. Educators, bus drivers, custodians, and cafeteria workers helped our children get meals, stay safe, and learn. Law enforcement, firefighters, EMTs kept us protected. Passionate, peaceful protesters of all stripes challenged us and reminded us the importance of protecting our freedom of speech. Faith leaders prayed for, helped, and comforted us. Scientists and researchers at our great universities helped discover and make vaccines and treatments. Moms, dads, grandparents, children, neighbors, friends, everyday people endured together and helped each other. You see, North Carolinians step up in times of crisis. And while our special guests cannot be in the building tonight, I want to recognize a few North Carolinians who've made a real difference. A lot of North Carolina companies, at their own economic risk, changed what they were doing and started making things we needed right then to save lives. Instead of just making furniture, Custom Contracts Furnishing in High Point teamed up with local fabrics companies to make medical gowns. They hired 50 new employees and made over 1 million gowns for our state and other customers. In March of 2020, right as the pandemic began, Parkdale Mills in Gastonia worked with a group of companies to put together a reusable mask, supplying over 600 million of them across the country. This kind of ingenuity and resourcefulness helped us get desperately needed PPE to frontline workers when they didn't have enough. That North Carolina ingenuity unfolded across the state in many ways. Felicia Young, a math teacher at Knox Middle School in Salisbury, knew remote learning would be a challenge, so she went the extra mile to make it fun. She produced videos with music, dance, and song that helped you with math even though you didn't want them to. She kept in such close contact with her students and families, she earned the nickname Mama Young. North Carolina National Guard Lieutenant Colonel David Walliser coordinated vaccine sites along with emergency management and state and local health officials across the state and helped organize the federally supported site in Greensboro. And he said, "No great achievement is achieved alone." Colonel Walliser knew that with all of us working together, we could get more people vaccinated. And of course, there are endless stories of our heroic frontline health workers who fought this pandemic tirelessly with courage and compassion. One of these is Natisha Fields, a nurse and manager at Carolina East Medical Center in Newbern. She had the double challenge of caring for her patients and her staff, from dealing with PPE shortages to caring for dying patients, to supporting her staff members who were working long hours amid their own sacrifices. She kept things running and kept people safe. Natisha, David, Felicia, Custom Contracts Furnishing, Parkdale Mills, and so many other people and companies in our state stepped up. And I am so grateful to all of them. And now, it's time for us to step up. The elected leaders. North Carolinians want us to work together like they have had to do. Now, members of the legislature, we know we can find common ground because we've done it before. Our differences often get the attention, but our cooperation got billions of dollars in relief funds to people who needed it. You passed and I signed legislation to provide funding to rebuild after the natural disasters. Together, we passed the Build and See bonds for better roads. We landed tens of thousands of good-paying jobs with strategic and accountable economic incentives. We got rid of the discriminatory House Bill 2. We raised the age for juveniles in the criminal justice system. And just last month, together, we got more children safely into their classrooms. And we're working with each other on pandemic response. We recognize that thousands of North Carolinians were threatened with eviction and power shutoffs during the pandemic. My administration created and you funded the HOPE program to make payments directly to landlords and utilities to keep people in their homes with the lights on. It's already helped 36,000 families and paid out almost $125 million. Together, we're helping small business owners bounce back with federal funds for their rent and utilities. The Barbecue Center in Lexington, that's been family-owned and open since 1955. This money allowed them to keep their doors open, pay and keep their employees, while still serving great barbecue. You passed and I signed legislation waiving the ABC permit fees, saving struggling bar and restaurant owners millions, directing funds to schools to keep them safe, providing students with summer school and with better ways to learn to read. And we know we have to do so much more. We often have our differences in these chambers, but the people of North Carolina should know that at times, when it mattered, their leaders stepped up. And now, we need to do it again. One way is fighting through this pandemic together, together, the right way. Though every loss hurt, North Carolina ranks low among the states in COVID-19 deaths per capita during the pandemic. During the same period, North Carolina ranks low among states in job losses per capita. We've saved lives during the pandemic and deployed vaccines to bring our economy on strong. We are doing it the right way. Almost half of our state's adults have had at least the first shot of vaccine, and almost 40% are fully vaccinated. And we're doing even better with our 65 and over population, with more than 77% with at least one shot, and more than 72% fully vaccinated. That's remarkable. Every dose is another person saved, another family closer to immunity. Now think what more we can do if we keep working together. Our future success as a state depends on us getting health care to working people who don't have it. Several of you top legislators from both parties sat with Secretary of Health and Human Services Dr. Mandy Cohen and me on the North Carolina Council for Health Care Coverage, and we unanimously agreed on a set of principles. Some were straightforward. Get more people covered with health insurance. Make people healthier. Use tax dollars wisely. Others were more complicated. Make health care more fair. Reach our rural areas. The opportunity to do all of these things is there if we expand Medicaid. And circumstances about Medicaid expansion have changed dramatically since we debated it in the last budget. First, even more federal dollars, our tax money, are available in unprecedented amounts for the last few states that have not expanded. That can make our rural hospitals thrive, provide mental health, and keep working people healthy. Second, this legislature's push to transition Medicaid to managed care is happening in about 2 months. And you have said that this will make Medicaid more efficient and save taxpayer money. Third, people who've lost their jobs and their employer-sponsored health insurance during this pandemic desperately need this help. We hear time and again from small businesses about the urgent need for Medicaid expansion. One business owner who's been fighting for it is Cassandra Brooks. She operates child care centers in Clayton and Garner. Her centers cared for the children of grocery store clerks, nurses, and other frontline workers who had to work in person all through this pandemic. Cassandra had a friend and a coworker die from a stroke when she could not afford treatment for her high blood pressure. She has seen people without health insurance get sick with COVID-19 and not be able to get the care they needed. 1 in 5 child care workers don't have health insurance. That's not right. Expanding Medicaid does all the things we agreed on in our bipartisan council meeting. It gets more people covered. It makes people healthier. It uses tax dollars wisely and reduces health care costs for businesses. It makes health care more fair. It reaches rural areas. Let's make a deal. Let's get this done. A healthier state means a healthier workforce that's ready for the better paying jobs that we're bringing here. In 2019, I and the bipartisan leaders of the legislature, business, and education stood together to make a promise. We pledged that in the next decade, 2 million more adult North Carolinians would have a degree or trade certification. Now we have the best chance to keep that promise. Today, we can join together to offer all North Carolinians who want to reach their full potential through higher education the chance to afford it. With our great community colleges, university system, and private colleges, we have the best training grounds in America. With the Federal American Rescue Plan and state resources, we have the funding. With businesses already here and coming soon, we have the good-paying jobs. Now we need to put it all together to make education and training more affordable for everyone. Now, you might have heard today that a little technology company from California has decided to move here. And yet another tremendous accomplishment for our state. Today, we stood together and announced that Apple had chosen North Carolina for its first new campus and engineering hub in the United States in more than 20 years. And that makes 11 companies that have announced thousands of jobs in both rural and urban areas in just the past 2 months during a pandemic. The good jobs are already here, and they're going to keep on coming. Let's make sure our people can afford to get the education and training to land them. We know that people can succeed if we break down the financial barriers keeping them from their goals. Lexine Merrill was in her 3rd semester as a nursing student at Central Piedmont Community College when unexpected medical bills came on top of a needed car repair. She thought she'd have to drop out, but a Finish Line grant helped her afford to stay in school. She graduated in December and is working as a critical care nurse in Monroe right when we need her the most. Her story is a testament that even a small amount of financial help can turn students into skilled workers to fill these high-demand jobs. The CEOs will tell you they need these highly trained people right now, and that we need to invest more in our community colleges and our universities for scholarships, and we need them now. These same CEOs will tell you that investing in education at the back end is important, but investing in our children earlier may be even more critical. Our pledge for getting 2 million more adults trained and educated by 2030 must begin with more children getting high-quality pre-K and a healthy start at birth. More children who learn to read in elementary school. More children inspired to learn trades in middle school. And more well-paid educators who can guide children as well as adults getting trained for a second career. And that means paying our teachers more. If we want to recruit and keep the best educators, we need to pay them better. Too many of our teachers are working multiple jobs, and it's still not enough. Because of our budget dispute last time, our educators did not get a raise in the last budget cycle. We need to make up for that in this year's budget. Healthcare and education will get us well on our way, but to cement North Carolina's spot as best in the nation for business and industry, we have to solidify the state's backbone. Its infrastructure, schools, water and sewer, roads, bridges, transit, and also its pathways for information. High-speed internet is vital for education and telemedicine, but also for every person from small business owner and farmer to big corporation and hospital. In Hope County, Dr. Karen Smith began using telemedicine to care for patients with opioid addiction. And when the pandemic hit, she realized that she could help, that internet could help even more. She carefully planned to continue her in-person medical practice, But many of her patients were hesitant to come in at the height of the pandemic, and a lot of them didn't have internet access. So, Dr. Smith extended her office's Wi-Fi to the parking lot and offered tablets for patients to use. This meant that those with limited access to technology could still get the care they needed through telemedicine. The pandemic and the resulting necessary expansion of technology have flung us a decade ahead. The future world where we work from home, see a doctor, and connect over screens is thrust on us right now. But if you don't have access, the screen, or the money to subscribe, you're left out and left behind. We have a plan and the money to stretch high-speed internet to our state's farthest corners, and we should use them both to get this done. And let's boost businesses that were hardest hit by the pandemic with some direct help. Restaurants, hotels, conventions, hospitality, and tourism. Let's get people back in the workforce and help them get the training they need to land the jobs. And a lot of them will be clean energy jobs. Look, scientists concur that the climate crisis is real and that we need to lower carbon emissions. But aside from that, clean energy is where the great paying jobs are going to be. Let's get ahead of the other states and lead this industry in North Carolina. I'm asking you to expand access to clean energy technologies, invest in clean energy economic development, promote offshore wind, and build the clean energy workforce to catalyze North Carolina's economy. This industry is racing toward us with thousands of good-paying jobs that will strengthen our economy and our planet. We're already ahead in solar energy, and with new offshore wind and its lucrative supply chain, we can put money in North Carolina pockets. And as we work to build our infrastructure, we need to build the school buildings our kids deserve and strengthen the community colleges and universities where we're training the next great scientists, engineers, nurses, and welders. We can enrich our lives with investments in parks and museums and historic sites. We're seeing the lowest interest rates. We can afford it. It'll create jobs, and we're never going to get a better deal. So let's come together and pass a strong bond referendum so we can get all of this done. All of these important steps are needed to build a stronger and more prosperous future. But we can't succeed in the future without reckoning with our past and, unfortunately, our present. We must face head-on the stark reality of systemic racism and how it hurts people and leaves them behind. Who gets to see a doctor? Who gets hired for a job? Who gets charged with a crime? Who gets prison time? Who gets killed? Over the past year and just in the past week, we've seen the harm suffered by too many people of color in our state and across the country. And I want to say clearly, we must all stand together to stop racial injustice in North Carolina. Everyone should have opportunity and everyone should be able to feel safe in their own homes and communities without fear of authority who should be there to protect them. In all areas that are important for people's success, healthcare, education, economic strength, the justice system, we must confront systems that favor some and harm others, and we must fix them. Fellow North Carolinians, today our state is operating under a budget that was enacted in 2018 because we couldn't agree on one last time. Think about how much the world has changed since 2018. I'm here now at your invitation to give my perspectives about the needs and challenges of our people. And I'm here to tell you that my budget tackles those needs and challenges. There's some really good ideas in there. There's going to have to be some give and take in order for us to get this done. I don't want to have to veto the budget, and I will do my part to see that we have a budget, and I expect you to do yours. And I, as I've told them, I want to see a budget that has 3 signatures: Senator Berger's, Speaker Moore's, and mine. Our people deserve that. To the legislators in the room, we've agreed before. Let's find ways to do it again and keep moving our state forward. Let's agree to listen more to each other and act in good faith to get things done. We are already making progress on that. The challenges we face are too great to do otherwise. They're not easy to solve. We have the opportunity and the unprecedented resources to face them head on, to get to the root of problems, to imagine and innovate rather than doubt and tolerate, to fight discrimination and promote justice and open doors even wider to diversity and equity. In a year of hardship and loss, we owe it to ourselves and to each other. And as leaders, we owe it to the people who elected us to build a state that is truly more educated, equitable, healthier, and prosperous. And to act with the compassionate resilience that has gotten us through this pandemic. North Carolinians kept each other safe, taught each other, saved each other, mourned for and loved each other, prayed for each other. This is the North Carolina way, and we must heed the lessons that we have learned. I believe with all my heart that North Carolina is strong, resilient, and ready to face the challenges of the future. I believe that we will rebuild from this pandemic to be even stronger than before. And I believe that we can roar into the future together, creating a shared recovery that ensures all of our best days lie ahead. I have never been prouder to call myself a North Carolinian. I have never had a stronger faith in God. I have never been more honored or more committed to serve all of you as your governor. And I have never been more certain that North Carolina's future is bright. Thank you. God bless all of you. God bless North Carolina, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you all very much.
The Sergeant at Arms of the House and the Senate will open the doors for the exit of the governor.
Good evening. I am Tim Moore, and it has been and continues to be one of the greatest honors of my life to represent the people of Cleveland County as a Republican in the North Carolina House of Representatives. I've also been blessed with the opportunity to serve as the Speaker of the House since 2015. You know, the great thing about serving in the House is that every person who calls our state home is represented here, from our bustling cities and metropolitan areas to our strong rural communities. There are 120 people from all corners of this great state, from a wide variety of backgrounds and with many different views, and we all work together to make our state a better place to live and work. While we each bring a different vision on how to achieve these goals, we all do our best. You've just heard from Governor Roy Cooper about his vision for the state of North Carolina. Despite being from different political parties, both Governor Cooper and legislative Republicans have many of the same end goals in mind. We all want North Carolina to be a place where people can have good jobs, safe homes, and provide their children with the very best educational opportunities. We may have very different views on how to achieve those goals, but I and my fellow Republicans intend to try and find as much common ground as possible. In North Carolina, we're not afraid of our differences. Rather, we view our differences as a part of the rich fabric of our great state as we work together to move North Carolina forward. And speaking of moving forward, we definitely need to move forward. This past year has been difficult for families across North Carolina. We've had a year of a deadly health crisis and devastating job losses, political divisiveness, and even civil unrest. If your family lost a loved one to COVID-19, let me, on behalf of all members of our legislature, extend my deepest condolences to you and your family. Further, let me also highlight one area of agreement among leaders in this state. We want all North Carolinians to feel comfortable making the personal choice to be vaccinated against COVID-19 so that our state can finally put this pandemic behind us. The good news is that we are seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. Case numbers, hospitalizations, and deaths are dropping to lower and lower levels, and I am confident we will soon put this pandemic in the rearview mirror. As we emerge from the COVID crisis, I am happy to say that North Carolina is poised to have one of the strongest state recoveries in the nation. Because of the strength of our people and sound fiscally conservative governance over the last 12 years, North Carolina is a national leader in economic growth, but we need to stay the course. Smart budgeting, regulatory reforms, and tax cuts have led to increased economic growth, and I am proud to say that our state government has the largest budget surplus that it has had in many years. While many other states are hacking taxes, we have the ability to make further tax cuts. In fact, our strong economic climate is attracting major new employers, including a major announcement made just today that Apple Computer will be making North Carolina its East Coast hub and adding at least 3,000 high-paying jobs to the state. While we work together toward the same goals, there remain differences in our approaches. One major area of disagreement between the governor and Republicans is how to handle the good fortune of this major budget surplus. While the governor will push for large increases in state programs, bureaucracy, and spending, we know that this is a recipe for unsustainable budgeting that will eventually lead to painful cuts or tax hikes in the near future. Instead, Republicans will push to make investments that help the working families and small businesses of this state. We will use this one-time surplus of funds on capital projects and sectors to invest in our state, whether through a bond, federal funds, or our substantial cash reserves. We will dramatically improve our rural broadband access so schools and businesses throughout North Carolina will have the tools they need to compete in the 21st century economy. We'll also push to dramatically increase funding for water and sewer infrastructure so communities are not left behind. We're also going to invest in transportation to fix infrastructure needed to move our economy forward. We've always been known as the good road state, and we'll spend money on roads, bridges, and highways to maintain that reputation. We'll also invest one-time funds in assisting our children. COVID-19 has brought challenges to almost every facet of life, but it has especially impacted the children of this state. After a year of devastating school closures, North Carolina families are desperate for their children to recover as much of the lost learning opportunities as possible. I'm proud to say the legislature is doing its part to help students catch up. Virtual classes made it abundantly clear that our students need the in-person contact that a normal school day provides. That's why we passed legislation reopening in-person education in every public school district in this state for every parent that wants that choice for their child. Additionally, we created a robust, fully funded summer school option for all students to attend at no cost to their families. Every child deserves the promise of a strong education. And while this year presented challenges in delivering that education, we are committed to ensuring that all children recover their lost learning. North Carolina Republicans are also laser focused on reviving our small businesses. Shutdowns, lockdowns, capacity restrictions, and other mandates devastated many businesses across this state. Many were ultimately only able to stay afloat in employing North Carolina workers due to assistance from President Trump's Paycheck Protection Program. Over 200,000 of these loans were made last year, and many of these businesses are still hanging on by a thread. It's time for North Carolina to give those businesses additional tax relief, just like 47 other states have already done, giving these businesses a crucial lifeline to stay afloat. While COVID-19 hurt our small businesses this year, our tax code should certainly not add to that pain. North Carolina Republicans in both chambers are also looking at other broad-based tax relief proposals to put dollars back in the wallets and pocketbooks of hard-working North Carolina families, because we believe state government should not spend a penny more than it has to, and it should return anything extra to the taxpayers whose money it is in the first place. You know, the civil unrest many North Carolinians saw this last year was troubling, bringing long-ignored disparities in criminal justice to the surface. In North Carolina, we are pursuing bipartisan criminal justice reforms that end disparities while continuing to respect our law enforcement officers. You know, it's not an either-or question. We can pass legislation to crack down on rioters and looters and those who have hurt law enforcement officers, while at the same time ensuring police are trained to prevent abuse and the few officers who have abused their authority are held accountable. But let me be very clear, no proposal to weaken the thin blue line by defunding the police will ever be passed by this legislature. Finally, I know that election integrity is top of mind for many North Carolinians watching tonight. Legislative Republicans want to keep it easy to vote, but hard to cheat. We'll preserve voter access while fighting to finally put voter ID in place. It has been 2 years since the citizens of North Carolina voted for this measure, and it's time for that vote to be respected. We will keep access to voting by mail for those who need that option, with appropriate safeguards in place. You know, North Carolina has many voting options, but I know that the gold standard of voting integrity is voting in person on Election Day using a photo ID. With all of these challenges this year, from tax policy to education, criminal justice reform and job growth, transportation, and election integrity, I'm sure that this session of the General Assembly will highlight differences of opinion. Republicans and Democrats will have to work hard together, and we won't always agree on the best way to do things. But I assure you that we all agree we want North Carolina to be the very best it can be. We want to leave North Carolina a more prosperous, healthier, and stronger state than we found it for our children. May God bless you, and may God bless this great state of North Carolina.